Okay, we're back again. So we're still in quarantine, or isolation, whatever you want to call it. Don't have much to do, so figured just played a few obscure video games the other day. We'll play some more, I guess. Alright, so what are we going to talk about today? Let's talk about the martial arts movies that changed my life. I've been a collector of martial arts movies since the 80s, since the VHS days. Yes, VHS. Everything's digital now. I've got everything archived, and I've got my own little database of martial arts movies. Love my martial arts movies. Let's talk about the martial arts movies that changed my life. Alright, here we go. Okay, F. Flashpoint. Flashpoint, starring Donnie Yen. Colin Chu as the bad guy, Louis Koo as the good guy co-star. A typical modern sort of martial arts cop story, you know? And Donnie Yen is playing his typical sort of character that he plays in these films. At the time of watching this, I was a pretty big Donnie Yen fan. Over the years, it's kind of dwindled for me. Kind of lost a little bit of respect for Donnie over the years because stories that you hear. But then again, I've never met the guy, so I can't judge. He is the #1 guy for action martial arts, especially with Hong Kong related films. And he has been now for the last, 20 years, whatever it's been. He is the man. And it doesn't matter what he does. His choreography is the best in the industry. His weapons choreography has always been exceptional. And what I like about this film is it's very bare bones. It's very raw. It's one of the first movies where you actually got to see mixed martial arts integrated with Chinese martial arts in a movie like this. And it's really effective. The other thing is the villain, or the villains in the movie, they're very effective as well. And I can't remember another time before this. There was a long time before this where I'd watch a movie and really get invested in it and just cheer the good guy as he beats the crap out of the bad guys. There were a few sections in this movie where I was just cheering Donnie as he beat the crap out of the bad guys. Real effective, and to get that sort of emotional response from somebody, you know that you've made a great film, and this is a great film. If you haven't checked out Flashpoint, you've got to check it out because it's kick-ass. One of the best modern-day martial arts cop films that I can think of off the top of my head. Alright, here we go. We had to get into a Bruce Lee movie. So, this is an odd one. Game of Death. Now, the movie itself, as a product, as a finished product, it's a terrible film. It's a terrible film. It wasn't what Bruce Lee wanted. That wasn't his vision for the film. He'd passed away before the movie was finished. So, he had footage. They exploited the footage. They put a movie together. Now, what's one of my earliest memories of this film? One of my earliest memories of this film would be going back to when I was a kid. And Footscray again, we talked about Footscray in our gaming video. Footscray in the 1990s. It was almost a Chinatown sort of scenario when you went down there, especially at night time. And they had this place which was called Footscray Mall, and there was, I don't know why I was there late one night. I was there with my folks. I wasn't running the streets making trouble. But I don't know why we were there. It was late at night, and there was a closed sort of audio-visual shop, TV, selling TVs, stereos, things like that. And in the front window, they had a TV, a big TV, and they were just playing the last section of Game of Death. The part with Bruce with his black and yellow jumpsuit, fighting Dan Inosanto, fighting Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, with the nunchaku. And I just stood at that window and I watched that whole last scene of the movie, and I was like, wow, man, Bruce, he's the man, Especially at that point in time, if anybody talked about Bruce Lee, he was the king, And that kind of stuck in my memory. I don't remember why I was there that night, why I was standing at that shop front watching this film. Many years later, I started getting into the Bruce Lee DVDs when they started getting released onto DVD. Game of Death had this extra. The Game of Death DVD had an extra outtakes bit on the DVD, and it was just the uncut tower footage. Just Bruce with the uncut footage, fighting all the bad guys in the tower. I don't know why, I really loved it. I loved the different aspects of the scene, because what Bruce was going for was to see, Jeet Kune Do, No Way As Way, going up against different styles. So you had a Korean style, you had a Filipino martial arts style, double sticks, loved the double sticks, nunchaku, weapons fights, obviously, and then fighting Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at the end. It was a great concept, and it's a shame that we never got to see what Bruce's finished product would have been for this movie. You see the jumpsuit. It's iconic. I love it, Seeing Dan Inosanto there in his one of his few movie roles. Was it his only role? I can't remember. again, studying Jeet Kune Do and studying Filipino martial arts and Chinese kung fu and things like that, it's very influential for me. So yeah, I do. I like this film. As bad as it is, I like this film. Oh man, In the Line of Duty. There are a bunch of these films. Now I think the first movie starts at part 3, so it's called In the Line of Duty Part 3. Now it was kind of a loose sequel to a movie called Police Assassins with Michel, Yeoh and Cynthia Rothrock. Yes Madam, I think that's what it was called, Yes Madam. And then there's Yes Madam Part 2, and it had a different name as well, right? I wasn't a big fan. Magnificent Warriors was the second one. So you had Yes Madam, Magnificent Warriors, 2 Michel Yeoh starring roles. Not related to each other either. So then, Michel Yeoh had retired at this point in time, and Hong Kong needed to get a new female action hero. So this new female action star went by the name of Cynthia Khan. So Cynthia, the name, a Taiwanese actress called Li Xingyang, right? The first name, Cynthia, came from Cynthia Rothrock, who was in that first film. Khan came from Michelle Khan, because Michel Yeoh was calling herself Michelle Khan in that point in time. So, Cynthia Khan, Taiwanese actress. And probably my favourite female martial arts action movie star from this time period. I wasn't a big Michel Yeoh fan, so sorry. Cynthia Khan was my girl. Her first starring film was In the Line of Duty 3. Not a good film. I can't, But In the Line of Duty 4, that was a different ball game altogether. That movie was, I think, the reason behind that was because it was directed by Yuen, and co-starred Donnie Yen, a young Donnie Yen at that point in time. This movie is very thin on plot, a digital sort of soundtrack, very influenced by Harold Faltermeyer. So yeah, Cynthia Khan, Donnie Yen, a few other familiar faces, because it is a 1980s martial arts Hong Kong flick. Yeah, directed by Yuen. Now this movie, no matter who I showed this movie to, people who weren't into martial arts films, people who were, they loved it. Thin on plot, but it steamrolls, the movie steamrolls from one action scene to another action scene. There's a few things that don't make sense here and there, but then again, these movies, when did things really make sense? Now one of the highlights in the film is the fight between Donnie Yen and John Salviti. John Salviti, a big, awesome fight choreographer these days, one of the big boys. They were childhood friends, I believe, and so they obviously knew each other well. I think John was studying at Donnie's mum's martial arts school. The same with Michael Woods. Michael Woods, one of the last fights in the film. Big burly dude. Donnie fights him towards the end of the film. Again, Michael, I think, childhood friends as well. So the three of them were childhood friends, from what I understand, and they trained together. So that's what makes these fight scenes so effective, because they know each other. They're beating the crap out of each other. Great fights. It was re-released as just In the Line of Duty, just to so there wasn't confusion with why isn't there part 1 and part 2? What happened to part 3? There was a part 4 and a part 5. There was a part 5, maybe part 6 as well. Those films aren't so good. Part 4 is the best of the series because of the people involved. Definitely worth checking out if you like your Hong Kong police martial arts movies. What's next? What's another big film to me? Ip Man. The Ip Man films, especially the first Ip Man film, starring Donnie Yen. Now, up until that point, Donnie wasn't the biggest mainstream sort of name outside of Hong Kong. And it was Ip Man that's put him into the stratosphere, worldwide, because there was no doubt about it that he was the man before anyway. The thing about Ip Man is it was the first movie to really portray Wing Chun properly. And when I saw this movie, when this movie was coming out, I knew who Donnie was, and I was telling everybody at training, oh, there's this guy, he was in this movie, In the Line of Duty, he was in this other movie, this movie's gonna be the best. Check it out. And sure enough, the movie was a killer of a movie. The first movie was great. The second movie was great. Donnie was signed on to make a third film, which he didn't because there was suddenly an influx of a lot of Wing Chun related movies. And apparently, in an interview, Donnie said that he didn't want to be part of this thing anymore. Or maybe the money wasn't right. Who knows? A couple of years went by. A couple of other Ip Man films came out without Donnie. Donnie came back. I guess he was offered the right price. Ip Man 3. And again, that movie is great. I think I've got a review of it on my channel here somewhere. That's a great movie too. Who else was in it? Mike Tyson was in it too. Now, Ip Man 4, just a bit of a waste of time, but still fun. It was still fun to watch. Why? Because Donnie plays him so well. The fight scenes are great fight scenes. It's very hard to find movies these days that have good, old school, Hong Kong related fight scenes. So, I love those films, but, most notably Ip Man 1, because it's very sentimental for me, especially that time in my life. I was very heavy into the Chinese martial arts at that point in my life, and to have this movie come out and represent Wing Chun properly for once, instead of making it all zippy and stuff, it was a great film, great to watch. Definitely, not accurate by any means to Ip Man's real life, but, it's fun. You gotta check it out. If you haven't watched it, you like martial arts movies, period pieces, things that are loosely based on real life, check it out.